Hello everyone, today we're going to be running a Shuri Point Slam deck build. Now I normally don't like to post a video the day before an over-the-air patch change, just in case any of the cards in a particular build change drastically. But if you guys haven't seen, patch notes were leaked. They are not confirmed, they're not necessarily official, but they were leaked in the exact same manner that the last over-the-air patch changes were leaked, and it turns out that those were exactly the changes that we were going to get. So I'm inclined to believe that that's probably the case for this week's as well. And so none of the cards in this deck get buffed or nerfed, but I do think it stands to get a little bit stronger as the meta game shifts to whatever changes come from the over-the-air patch. I've always been a pretty big fan of Shuri Point Slam decks, and as we get new cards released, they continue to evolve ever so slightly, but the core stays relatively the same. You'll notice that in this version, we don't run Sauron. If you don't have Hope Summers, you can substitute it for Sauron, but you would want to put back in some of those high-impact, negative ongoing cards like Typhoid Mary, Lizard, and Ebony Maw, probably a 0 as well. But that one's a little bit less flexible, but it can still pump some ridiculous amounts of power. I think this deck is poised to do pretty well in the current state of the meta, because one card that has continued to lose value since I've returned is Shang Chi. Whether it be that people just aren't hanging their high power, high impact cards out onto the board, or Leech comes down and takes away its own revealability, it just doesn't have as much value, and so it's being teched in less and less often. If a major counter card is being teched less, that leaves an area of opportunity for us to exploit it with just some high raw value, high power plays. And so this build is a little bit different than your typical one. We run Hope Summers. We use it as a way to ramp into potentially an early double-powered Red Hulk, and then that allows us to do a Taskmaster on turn number 6 to copy the doubled-up Red Hulk's power. We have a little bit of flexibility in things like a Captain Marvel. In some situations, we may do Shuri into Captain Marvel, not very often, but it is a potential playline to allow a more flexible last turn play because Captain Marvel can be that roving resource to win you games. The early game is going to unfold with placing a Sunspot or Nebula if you happen to have it. With armor, we may potentially use that as a way to protect whichever lane we're planning on using our Shuri in, so that we could do Shuri into a double power Red Skull, and then we just drop Taskmaster somewhere else. Maybe we do Shuri into a double power Vision and then move it out after the fact. The one thing that I like about Shuri decks is they're not difficult to navigate. It doesn't take as much thought process as something like a bounce deck where you have to really calculate and figure out where the most optimal place to play those cards is going to be. You can just slam absurd amounts of points and a lot of times come over the top of whatever your opponent's playline was meant to be. So we're not going to spend too long in the deck explanation. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. The deck has run phenomenally. I've climbed from rank 225 up to, or I guess down to rank 183. So we're climbing up the infinite ladder, and it's been a pretty easy climb so far, stealing some big cube games away with this build. We're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. If we move this over and they play their Red Hulk, I think there's a world where we're fine, because ours should scale up this turn because they have one extra energy from the Superflow, unless they drew Korg, which they could rotate in Quantum Tunnel. But I think we're going to go ahead and take that risk. They move their Nocturne. They play Red Hulk in the right lane, which is not enough if it doesn't scale. And so we're just going to stack in the left lane, stack in the right lane, with just the Taskmaster drop of 27 for the Red Hulk. We were able to steal that right location away. They were relying on that being able to scale this turn, but of course we didn't have the extra energy from the Superflow like they did, and so ours scaled, theirs did not. We will gladly take the 2. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Mr. Fish, and the first location is Necrotia, so they're probably not going to play that many cards there, so something like a Red Hulk might be decent in the long run. We do have Shuri into Red Skull, into whatever else it looks like, and we can also cap out the raft location potentially on turn number 5. We could cap it out with a Vision and then move it out. We'll have that free raft resource to utilize, and that's if we draw something that we can use on turn number 2, which we'll see, I guess. And so we have the armor coming down, protecting the raft location. They have White Widow, which is a very common card in a lot of decks. She's very strong. She's very flexible. It always feels like she doesn't do just an absurd amount of things, but she's always very potent at what she does. And so they have Nocturne that's going to move over into Astrodam, which actually helps us out just a touch. And it turns it into Westview. Westview's going to turn into Sokovia. We lose our Captain Marvel. They lose their Wong. And so I think it may have been the Wong decision for them to go ahead and lean into that. We have Shuri. So next turn we could go either Red Skull, we could do Vision, and that allows us that flexibility, that movement piece. Or we could potentially skip into a She-Hulk plus something else, a She-Hulk and a Red Skull on turn number 6, but that's just, it depends on what it looks like they're running. And so we do get our Taskmaster, so I really like the prospect of Red Skull into a just massive behemoth of a Taskmaster on turn number 6, because that 28 power Taskmaster is really hard to compete against, and 28 power, even though we give them a little bit here, is still really tough to fight off. And so we're going to go ahead and go with them running Magic. What kind of build could they be running? I'm going to go ahead and snap into it. If they're running a Doc Ock for some reason, then odds are it'll pull our Vision. We can move that. We have that flexible piece to continue to push power into whatever lane Doc Ock was used into. It just depends. So Namora, they did have Wong, so it is a Namora deck. Maybe they have an Odin as well that they're going to look to utilize, but we'll see. Let's go. I'm going to go ahead and go Taskmaster. I'm going to go ahead and Taskmaster to the left. I'm going to drop a Sunspot as well. And then we do have our Red Hulk to leverage in probably the right location, but we'll see. If they change Limbo, the Odin comes down, which does hit Namora again, which is big. That does lock them into what they have in that middle location, and so they're not going to be able to beat what we have. And so it just comes down to, do they have a counter component to a big drop? So we could do Red Hulk. It's not going to beat us here. If they have a Shang Chi, maybe, but I don't think there's that many builds that are running Shang Chi anymore. We could also go Red Hulk into Sokovia and hope that it scales over what they have. But can they beat 10 power here? It'd be 12 power that they would have to overcome. I think we're okay. We're going to lock in the left lane. They move Nocturne over to the left, being that massive 15 power unit, and they double drop into the right lane. They have the Green Goblin, which does help them out over there. They have the Captain Marvel, which she can move, but she's only a 5 power resource. It is not going to be enough. We're going to grab the 4 cubes against the double Namora trigger into a massive 15 power Nocturne, 12 power White Widow, and it was still not enough to come over the top of what we had with just a fairly simple, straightforward Shuri line. We will take the 4. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Chef Pony Daddy. I don't even know what that means. The first location is Castle Zemo, which is not great. We could always potentially just move Vision over into that lane. Later on in the game, maybe we don't play anything there directly. Maybe we use that as a way to push our Shuri over onto that side. We still double up on our 5 cost card. I think that's probably the line we go with. And Wakandan Embassy allows our She-Hulk to be 12 power, and so it could end up being a 24 in unison with the Shuri, and so a Taskmaster on turn number 6 along with that She-Hulk could be so much power that's going to be tough to overcome. And so we have the Nebula, we have the Sunspot down. Sunspot's going to absorb any additional energy just that we are unable to use. We have the Red Hulk, the She-Hulk, and the Taskmaster. The only thing we're missing is actual Hulk. We're going to go ahead and skip here, let Sunspot get a little bit bigger. Not very many decks are running Killmonger these days. If so, losing the Sunspot hurts, but it's not the end all. And so they do play a card into Castle Zemo. They play Echo. Interesting. And so now their ongoing cards are not going to be effective. So we could do Shuri to make sure that we have a shot in this left lane. We could do Shuri into maybe a skip on 5, honestly, into a She-Hulk plus Taskmaster. That may be all that we need to do to overcome the White Widow, to overcome the Castle Zemo location. But we'll see. They have Captain Marvel. This looks like it's going to be a Namora deck, and so it looks like they're going to be trying to bump up that Captain Marvel just a touch to be able to give it that much better flexibility at the end of the game. But of course, with Shuri sending their way, it's not going to be a possibility. So I'm going to go ahead and skip on this turn. We could also do Red Skull, but I think that's a little bit less flexible. It gives them a little bit more power here. I don't know. I like the idea of getting the extra 5 energy or 5 power onto our Sunspot. They do have the Namora. They could be looking to do an Odin onto the Namora as well, which is something I've seen several times. Let's go She-Hulk. And then we're going to go Taskmaster. If something moves over into Atlantis, it breaks that Atlantis bonus. If they could move their Jeff, potentially, because they do have that flexible piece from the Namora. I've ran as something similar to this, and I just didn't get very fortunate with it. And so they have the Odin, which is going to hit the Namora once more, which brings 14 power into mid. We have 26 coming down in the left lane. We have 24 copying from the Taskmaster. Captain Marvel could move, but she's not able to, so we're going to win the point differential with the 6 power loss in the right lane. We win by more than that in mid, and we were able to grab... This one can be pretty scary because of the flexibility of the Jeff, of the Captain Marvel, of the Nocturne that's built in, but I still feel like it is very straightforward. A Cosmo completely counters it, and you can go over the top of it with something like the She-Hulk and Taskmaster. We will gladly grab our 2. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Beam Off or BMO FF. I don't know if they're going for like an Adventure Time reference or not, but we have the Pixel Ultron. The first location is the Orcus Forge. The next one is New York, so we can use that as a way to move some of our cards if we want to. We do have the Hope Summers into Shuri line, so maybe Shuri into Captain Marvel plus like a Jeff to give us a lot of energy going into turn number 6. And so I think we're going to go ahead and just do... I'm going to just do an armor into this right location, and then it might be that on 3 we do Hope Summers there, and we just stack everything that we have into that location. Now, we could always move armor into New York on the last turn and use it as kind of a rug pull of sorts on them so that they don't know if their cards are potentially going to get destroyed or not. Let's go with Hope Summers, and then we do have Shuri, but it's going to be getting pretty clogged or pretty cluttered pretty quickly. We could do Shuri. We get the extra energy. We have 6 going into the next turn of the game. So we could do maybe a Sunspot somewhere. Maybe we do the Captain Marvel. We could do a Red Skull and a Sunspot. Sunspot being the one that we do first. Sunspot not being the one we do first. We want to make sure that Shuri triggers on Red Skull. It would just cancel out that ability to do Taskmaster, which we don't know if we're absolutely sold that we have to have that potential or not. They do get Pixie on turn number 4, so now that they have Mjolnir in their deck, something else is going to be free, and Mjolnir is no longer going to be free, which I think is kind of a cool ordering from their end. So we could skip here. We could completely skip here, or we could just do something like Sunspot and Soak, but then Shuri wouldn't double it. Let's go ahead and go Red Skull, and then depending on what it looks like, we didn't play Sunspot just in case we top deck the Taskmaster, and so they do pull out some of their 0-cost cards, which we have no idea what those look like. They do have Red Hulk in hand now, so that does scale a touch. And so we can always maneuver these cards over. We can drop something like a She-Hulk and a Jeff into the left lane. Or we can throw Jeff into New York. I feel like the 13 power in the left lane may be what we want to go with. So we're going to do this. We're going to move our cards over. We're going to lose in this lane as long as they're able to get a little bit of a stack or buff on it. And so they go 3 cards into Warrior Falls, interestingly. We'll see what the Pixie had in store for them, because Mjolnir is no longer free because they don't have Mobius down. So it could be quite a few things. We got the Wasp, the Echo, and Mjolnir. Interesting. So that does push them higher in mid. They have Blink, which is going to rotate the Mjolnir. into Mobius, which is not going to do it. So Mobius must have been a much higher card, and so it seems like their line got a little bit clunky there. We didn't have a great playthrough, but we were still able to put a significant amount of power on the board. We had a pretty versatile last turn in where we positioned 13 extra power, and we will gladly take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Spider Hal. The first location is Morag, and that's definitely a little bit problematic for this deck for us because we don't have a lot of just flexible play lines. It's usually playing on curve and not that many cards in a given turn. We do have Sunspot down. They throw Nebula into that same lane. We have the extra energy. We could always get energy power into Morag with Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and play it into the Nebula lane to stop their card from scaling. And with Nebula, with Kitty Pryde, there's a few decks that it could be. Nebula is a pretty flexible one. Angela is one that has made a massive comeback since I returned to the game. And oh my gosh, that is unfortunate. With Oscorp Tower, we're actually going to get all of the cards that were here. So we're going to move our Jeff into Morag. We are going to lose the extra energy that we absorb with the Sunspot this turn, unfortunately, because we don't have a way to play. Unless they can change this location. Ooh, wow, Havoc is interesting. Not one that I was expecting them to give away. And so with the extra energy from Superflow, it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. As long as we have the Superflow energy to lean into. Interesting, very, very interesting. We have Captain Marvel we could lean on. I think She-Hulk at 2 is going to be our best bet. We could also do Vision next. Maybe we just stay at 4, right? Every turn we lose energy. I think we just stay at 4 at 4 energy. We can do Captain Marvel, and then we'll go from there. She'll be able to maneuver a little bit. We could do, I guess we could do She-Hulk. Let's do Captain Marvel. At least that has that flexible play line. We can skip on 5 into 6 so that we can get a She-Hulk down. They do have Nocturne, so they could use that as a way to make sure we don't have extra energy from the Superflow. The Havoc line is just unfortunate. It's draining our energy. We don't have the extra to kind of pump back up with the Hope Summers, but Havoc does get pretty large in the process, which is kind of nice. We're going to skip here. We have the ability to do She-Hulk into the Superflow, as long as they don't lock it down with like a Professor X, I guess, which would be unfortunate. No, just the Kitty Pryde, perfect. And then the Cannonball early to push the Jeff out. Interesting. I don't know that they have had a Red Hulk that was scaling. And so maybe we can steal this lane away? It's our best bet. Unless they can just absolutely counter this lane. We at least get the 10 power in Monster Metropolis. There's several cards that they could have that would go over the top of it. But I do like our shot here. So the Wolfsbane is coming in at 10 power right now. It's at 7. And then the Kitty Pryde, She-Hulk comes down. Does it steal enough away? No. But Captain Marvel can move over, and that is enough to swing it from the lead in their favor to us leading by 1. We were able to grab the awkward 2 cubes, the completely uninteractive, awkward 2 cubes. We will gladly take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Dropkick Murph. The first location is the Orcus Forge. They have Ant-Man coming down, so that could be... There is a Patriot build that's using Ant-Man. There's the Jean Grey Spectrum ongoing deck. There's a few options that they could have for that card. I'm going to go ahead and play Jeff into the expansion location as we get a little bit more information. So the Colossus tells me ongoing as well, but maybe not the same kind of optimal ongoing as what I would have thought. I'm going to go ahead and play Sunspot into the cloning vats. It's always one of my favorite lines to do Sunspot, drop another one somewhere else, because then it's almost always more beneficial to just skip and let your energy absorb than actually play. So the Medusa in mid is super interesting because then that... No way did we get Havoc 2 games in a row. So we're going to lose extra energy every turn. So we're stuck at 3, which is awful. This will continue to scale, so we'll get some energy there, but not much. What? What unfortunate luck. That's going to be a big Havoc, but not much else. We're not going to be able to do anything above 3 energy for the entirety of the game. What a wild expansion pool. And so they have Hawkeye, they have Wolfsbane. So it looks like maybe they just recently hit Infinite. Maybe they're a lower collection level. Because that Wolfsbane does get pretty large, which is a nice... It's nice that it's that flexible. I'm going to skip here. That way we can, I think, use She-Hulk. No, I think we're still going to be... No, we'll be able to use She-Hulk for 3. We'd use all of our energy to use the She-Hulk. But with them having another Wolfsbane, they could potentially be looking to play it into the left location. We should be able to scale up just a touch here with Havoc. And so I'm gonna try the She-Hulk in the right lane. I think if I'm them, I play a bigger card into the Orcus Forge rather than into the cloning vats. Maybe. Do they ever play more than 10 power there, though? Maybe we're fighting for the left lane instead. I'm going to leave Jeff in mid because we need that power there to scale with the Havoc. Now, if they have a Spectrum, they do or are able to come over the top of us in the expansion location. We'll see. Havoc 2 games in a row is nuts. This does look like a fairly low collection level build that uses like the Honor Veil, some slight ongoing. They stacked entirely in the left lane. Wow. Unfortunate. And they hit us with the fist bump. All right, so next up we have Andre Var 14 again. I think this is the 3rd time in like 10 games that I've played this person. So good luck, Andre. Hopefully we're able to win, but we'll see. The machine world comes down. We have our Nebula positioned into the kiln location. I think we even go a touch over that with something like Sunspot, and then maybe we throw armor there to protect it, and then all we're looking to do is win one of the other locations with like a Shuri into She-Hulk, Shuri into Red Hulk, something of that sort. And so with the Sunspot, I think we should be able to scale. With the Domino, they're a Domino believer. I'm not sure that I'm sold on the Domino math, but with the Domino, the plan is to increase your chance of getting Leech and Blink so that you can position some of your higher impact cards after the fact. So it looks like they're not too concerned with the Kiln location because they played Nocturne into Kiln. And so we do have Shuri into Vision. I'm going to go ahead and snap on it. We have Shuri into Vision. If they do use Leech on this turn, that's okay. It doesn't impact any of our Honor Reveals. We use very few for that reason. And honestly, a Shuri deck doesn't need all that many Honor Reveals. So they have Cord come down, so not the Leech line. The Red Guardian does hit our Nebula, so she won't scale like we thought she would. But Sunspot has the opportunity to. Or we just have our Vision, which is going to be able to move over into the Kiln location by itself. Then we just have to worry about winning one additional location. And so we have Vision come down. They do have Blink. Interesting. So they have Blink now, and it turns into Hawk, which is sending out so many high impact cards that they have. Do we think they use all of their energy this turn? I think they do. 16 goes up to 20. It's not, doesn't look great there. So unless they move Nocturne out, Vision doesn't win left. But if they do move Nocturne out, then we look silly not moving the Vision. So they go Rock Slide in mid, interesting, into a Nebula in the right lane. We have the She-Hulk coming down, which comes over the top of the Rock Slide. We already had the power in Wakanda, and so it looks like they thought we were going to be pushing for that left location. We were able to get a lucky read on it. We will gladly take the 4 cubes where we can. Let's go ahead and jump over into one more. All right, next up we have What Am I? 138 versus, I think, 187. Let's see if we're able to hold it down. The first location is the miniaturized lab, so something like Nebula is going to get some free scaling on 3, 4, and 5. Unless they play Jeff over there, which they would have to do it off curve, so it's a little less ideal. The raft does come down. We're not going to be able to compete for that one if they have any kind of low semblance of a curve at all. We do have Hope Summers, so we could do Hope Summers into Captain Marvel into an early Red Hulk, and that would leave us flexible and able to play like a Taskmaster somewhere else, but we'll see. The Dazzler line, if I remember right, What Am I runs a lot of like the Patriot build. I think they've always been kind of into that Patriot line, so we'll see if that kind of holds true here today. But we have Hope Summers. Unless we draw Shuri, it looks like Captain Marvel is going to be the line we go with. They do have Brood, so it looks like the Ultron Patriot style build, but that does have a cap on how high that potential power can go. Can we beat it? I don't know. I don't know if we can come over the top of it, but we will give it our best shot. Let's play the Captain Marvel, or we could do, I guess, Sunspot in Jeff, but I like the idea of the Captain Marvel. Their Iron Lad hits Patriot, which is really unfortunate because that's going to increase their high roll. If a snap comes down, we retreat. They have such a big deficit against us right now with Patriot, potentially an Onslaught. Being able to have 2 of them down early is massive. And so I think if they snap, it's one of those easy reads. It's a very linear line. It puts out a good amount of power pretty consistently, but it is relatively linear. So the White Widow comes down. Silver Surfer. So it's a Silver Surfer Patriot style like hybrid. I'm not for sure that we can come over the top of it, because we know that they do have another Patriot. They have a Patriot in hand, which would help. Here, the Silver Surfer that they already threw down would be 2, 4, 5, 6, or 8 at most if they did Ultron. Now, if they did Ultron, it'd be 4 more here, which this would cover. This would cover what we needed to in the left lane. I'm not sure that it gets the job done, but they didn't snap, so I'm guessing maybe they don't have a perfect ideal last turn. We're going to try to shoot for the Taskmaster copying the Red Hulk, the Jeff coming down. They did go Ultron, and so with the capped out location, the middle location is going to be won by us by 1. We do overpower the free Ultron that they got from the raft, which is wild that they got an extra raft resource, and we still came over the top of it. We were able to hold down the 2 cubes, not by a long shot, but we were able to hold it down closely enough that we can grab it, we can steal it away. We will take the 2 cubes where we can, and that is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys as always for being here. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.